Shalom, this is Rob with Rob on the Rock. I've got a little bit of our weekly Torah portion here I want to share. It's from Genesis 37, verse 4, and actually a little bit more than that. I want to do verse 3 and 4. And we're going to go over the Hebrew here. I'm trying a different background. I'm using a black, or what they call night sky display here, where the letters are white and the background's black. So I don't know how that comes across on your computer, but I thought it looked kind of cool. So let me know in the chat if you like it, and I can plan to do that. I know at nighttime, also when the lights are dim, it's a little bit easier on the eyes. But this week's Torah portion is called Vayyeshev, which is, and Jacob dwelled. Of course, he's back in the land now, and it extends from Genesis 37 through Genesis 40. And right here, I want to look at a couple verses here from Genesis 37. Then I'm going to switch over and I'll do a live stream from the Telos Torah YouTube channel. If you haven't checked that out, it's at Telos Torah on YouTube. And we're going to go over a passage from, I think it's chapter 39. But here we go. So chapter 37, 3 and 4. It says, Yisrael ahav et Yosef mikol banav. And Israel ahav. That's our word, he loved. That's where we get our noun, ahava. He loved et Yosef. We have to have the et there. That is our definite direct object marker. Yosef is the object of Israel's love, it says. Mikol banav, above all his brothers. Ki ven zekunim hu lo, because he was a ben zekunim, which is translated son of old age, because son of old age he was to him. Lo, that is to, means to Jacob, or to Israel. Ve'asa lo ketonet pasim, and he made for him. So that is, here's an example where we have two different pronouns implied. We have asa, he made. Well, who's the he? And then we have lo, for him or to him. Well, it's Jacob made for Joseph. The asa lo ketonet pasim. He made him a ketonet pasim, which you see here in the NASB is translated as multicolored tunic. But there are other possible ways of understanding it. Was it a long sleeve coat? It was definitely something very special. It was a very special garment that Jacob had made for Joseph. And the brothers saw it, as we see in verse 4. Vayira'u echav. And his brothers saw. Vayira'u echav ki oto ahav avihem mikol echav. So, and his brothers saw that he, their father, loved. So this is interesting that we don't have the verb here, that they saw that their father loved him, but the word order is for the brothers saw that him loved their father. It's kind of strange in English, but I love the word order here because it's targeting Joseph. Ki oto ahav avihem. So he's got a target on his back now. Because of his father's love for him, Joseph now became, in the eyes of his brothers, an enemy. And that's the last line here. It says, Vayisneu oto, and they hated him. Velo yachlu dabero leshalom. And they were not able, and then it says, dabero leshalom. Dabero leshalom. Often this is translated as they were not able to speak to him peaceably. Here you see they could not speak to him on friendly terms. I have an alternative way of understanding this verse based on this phrase yachlu and then dabero. So whenever we have, this is an infinitive, so it's a PL infinitive, ledaber, with a suffix o. If you have daberam, it means they're speaking. Dabera, her speaking. And we see this all over the place. But here, dabro were expected by these interpretations to think it means speak of him or speak to him. But the normal way to read an infinitive construct with a suffix, like we have here, is that it's possessive. His speech. Any other place in the Torah, dabero would mean his speech, his speaking. And here, the translators don't go that way because it's hard to make sense in English. But I'll suggest here that we read this as his speaking, that it's talking about Joseph's speech. Vayisneu, it says, Oto, and they hated him. That is, the brothers hated Joseph. Velo yachlu, and they were not able, dabero, his speaking, l'shalom, for peace, for shalom. Here's what I think it means. Because if you look at, this is a setup for Joseph having dreams, taking him to his brothers, relating them, and we have the different verbs for he said, he related, he told. We have lehagid, to tell, lesaper, to relate. And then we have this, the word, the words, okay, from davar. And they never interpret it well. They don't interpret anything Joseph says positively. It's only negative. Their hate only increases when he speaks to them. It's not their speech to him that is a problem. It's Joseph's speech to his brothers that is the problem, that escalates their hatred. It's like when he talks, their hatred gets worse. And I suggest that's how we're supposed to read this verse. Vayisneu oto velo yachlu dabero l'shalom means, and they were not able, and I would suggest this in English, they could not abide his speech with peace. They could not bear. So I'm kind of changing the phrasing in English to help accommodate the strangeness of the Hebrew phrase. So they hated him, and they could not receive his speech with any kind in terms of shalom. Another way you could think of it, they could not give a generous interpretation to anything Joseph said. So that's what hatred does. Hatred in the human heart. Yes, for sure. It means that they can't speak, and they're not going to say anything nice about Joseph. They're not going to say anything nice about their brother. But that's not all that this hatred does. And this is what we see in the following verses. It's not their speech that we see front and center. It's Joseph's speech to them, and then we see their hatred increase. Will you rule over us? Will you be king over us? They cannot bear his words. Let's say they loved him. Let's say they saw that their father loved him and that they loved him too. Let's just, for the sake of an experiment, let's say they loved Joseph the way Jacob did. And then Jacob had the same dreams. Jacob came with the dream. I had this dream. And they loved Joseph. They would ask, what does it mean? If they love God and love Joseph, they're going to say, maybe you are going to be some sort of ruler over us. Maybe you are going to be king. Maybe God has something in store for you. So it's Joseph's words which they cannot abide. They are unable to hear Joseph's speech. So I suggest the way to read this is Vayisneu oto, and they hated him. Velo yachlu. It's almost as if there's a verb to hear, lishmoa. Velo yachlu lishmoa et devarav, something like that. They were not able to hear. They were not able to receive his words, his speech, with peace, because their hearts were centered in a space of hatred. They were sitting in a seat of hate. And so when the human heart is oriented with hate towards another, there is no room for shalom. Shalom cannot happen. The thoughts about that person will not have shalom, and the capacity to listen and offer a caring, curious, truth-seeking ear is not possible because of that hatred. So shalom and hatred in this verse cannot go together. So this is why, Yeshua says, if you're coming to the temple and you have a gift, and then you remember that your brother has something against you, put your gift down, put a pause on it, go and seek peace, seek reconciliation with your brother, and then come back and offer your sacrifice. Because God's not interested in false worship. He's not interested in lip service with a heart that's far from him. But we're called to peace. We're called to shalom. That means we're called to love. We're not called to hate. So a good lesson here. And the fact that they're not even able, right? Shalom is not accessible to them. That's one final comment here. In hatred, shalom, true shalom is not accessible when someone is rooted in hatred. And we know this is a false world, that they're collectively, they're in a way, it's a conspiracy of hatred. What's the likelihood of all the brothers falling into line with hatred of Joseph? Didn't any of them think a thought of maybe we're being a little harsh? Now we see as it unfolds, we see Reuben, we see Judah, we see different voices stick out among all the brothers. But here, Vayyeshev uoto, it's not just one of them hated, it's they all collectively hated. And so shalom was far from them. So let us seek to have peace, as it says in scriptures, in as much as it's in our ability to strive to live with shalom and to be at shalom with others. Okay, so this is our from our Torah portion this week, Vayyeshev, and we looked at Genesis 37, verses 3 and 4. All right, I hope this little nugget from the Torah is some good food for thought for you. All right, Shabbat Shalom.